And welcome to another edition of Kevin's Corner on the Shore Sports Network. Hard to believe we sit here in the middle of February and we're talking Monmouth University football, not because of something months down the road, but something that's actually happening right now and will be happening even more in less than a month. I'm delighted to be joined by Justin Zuba, an outstanding offensive lineman for the Hawks. People will remember him as a former Brick Memorial Mustang, who is one of the key players to this Monmouth team, which I'll just take you back a little time. The last time they played was 2019. Monmouth won the Big South Championship for the first time in school history, went 11-3, won a playoff game. And then, of course, this past fall, there was no season, but the Big South is going to play spring football, and not spring football, like touch or flag, but real games, 4 of them. So the Hawks have begun practice, and Justin's good enough to give us a few minutes. And I guess the first question I'll ask is the obvious one. What's it like to be practicing football in February? And like you guys started with the worst possible weather.
I'll tell you, it's a challenge, because you have to balance class. It's not a traditional camp, but, you have to try to get your camp scheduling in, a lot of meetings, a lot of film. But honestly, it's a challenge that we've all been ready to accept because we didn't get to play football in the fall, and that left everyone, there was a hole and you got to fill it. So to get the chance to play football in the spring is awesome. Everyone's amped up, pretty excited about it. So
Yeah. Is the mood one of excitement so far in the practice field?
absolutely. Practice. This is some of the best practices in my time at Monmouth, honestly. Everyone's really amped up. The energy's awesome. The coaches are all ready, and we've been chomping at the bit because we haven't played a game since I think it was December 5th or 6th, 2019. So we've been waiting to play.
I'll ask you to go back a little bit in time to when you got the word that, there would be no fall season officially, there'd be no football, what it was like for you and, how difficult of a period that was for you to sort of get over that and move on.
Honestly, it was heartbreaking when we heard the news. Coach gathered us together. We talked about it, and it was heartbreaking. But we didn't sit and dwell on it for too long. And it was like, all right, we don't know when we're going to get to play, but we're definitely going to be ready when the time comes. So then, we all got sent home. Everyone took it on themselves. And I think everyone did a really great job of keeping themselves in football shape and ready to play. Because now that, we got those practices in the fall, now we're getting our practice right now. Everyone's feeling pretty great. So we're pretty excited about what's going to happen. It was rough to get over, but, things happen. Just keep moving forward.
Were you optimistic all along that the Big South would be able to go through with an idea to play some spring football?
I was. I don't think I think that I knew that they were trying to play it safe with the fall and everything, but it's like I knew that once it was ready to play, or once there was the option to play football, we'd be playing.
So the plan is right now you're in practice. I mean, you're practicing like you would be for a season. You'll play 4 games beginning March 13th. Your first 2 on the road against Robert Morris, who is a new member of the Big South, but certainly not a new rival for Monmouth. Then you're on the road at Gardner-Webb, and then home games on March 27th and April 10th against Charleston Southern and Kennesaw State. Boy, this is truly a situation where you almost got to treat every game so big because you only have 4 of them.
Oh, absolutely. And that's our mentality, Monmouth, is 1-0. Every game is a playoff game to us. So it's like every week you're only focused about that opponent, what you have to do in that week. And it's a condensed season. And if you look at it, zoomed out, it's tough. You have no margin for error. But that's, the way we handle that is focus on what we can control and just 1-0 every week.
3 of the schools in the conference, Campbell, North Carolina, and Hampton, have opted out. Just saw the news recently that Monmouth was picked the preseason favorite in the Big South. Does that put a little more pressure on you? I mean, you are the defending champions. You had a great season when we last played. A little more, focus on the Hawks as the team to beat.
That's something that we don't really consider too much. I mean, it's nice, those rankings, they are what they are, but ultimately we're competing against ourselves right now, and we're trying to be the best we can be when we get out there on the field. And to worry about that outside stuff is to worry about things that we don't have control over. So we're basically just focusing on ourselves and being the best team we can be, so that way we can give every opponent we play, our best self, and hope that's enough.
We're talking with Monmouth University offensive tackle Justin Zuba. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Academically, are you a senior?
Yes.
But you have 2. After this season, after this spring season, you still have 2 more years of eligibility to play football, correct?
Yes, sir.
Do you plan on going with both of those, or you're not sure about that yet?
I'm taking it a year at a time right now. We'll see what happens. I absolutely want to take him with the air, but we'll see how it goes.
Justin, you are, you probably don't like talking about yourself, but you are you personify what a student athlete is all about. And I know academics is very important to you. I believe You're only the second player, football player in Monmouth history to be named a COSIDA Academic All-American. So obviously it's important to you. How do you balance both? And let me ask you what you're majoring in.
So my major is history and secondary education, and then I have a special education minor and an English minor. The balance is tough. It's like I have to find my major is very reading intensive, a lot of paper writing. So basically I just have my books with me at all times pretty much. And whenever I have a chance to do reading, I get on it because, you have to balance, the work, the schoolwork. It's tough. It's intense. You're at a D1 school and excuse me, almost a good academic institution. So it is quite a challenge, but honestly, it's just taking every day as it comes. I use a lot of planning. And my days are pretty regimented and I try to stick to that. I mean, sometimes things happen, you have no control over it. You got to adjust. But for the most part, I think scheduling is what keeps me on track.
So do you see yourself as a teacher one day?
I do.
Could
Teacher
it be a
and coach.
teacher and a coach?
Absolutely.
Really? Interesting. Very interesting. You have, first of all, the good news for you, all your buddies on the offensive line are back. And that's important because you really are an entity to itself, the offensive line, correct?
Absolutely. I mean, we did lose one offensive line. We lost John Gavino, our right guard.
Okay. All right. But otherwise you're in pretty good shape. 17 of 22 starters back. One of the things I'll ask you is obviously a couple of the guys who graduated, Kenji Bahar, Tymir Berry, they were leaders. Who picks up the mantle of that leadership role? How does that happen? I guess at some point, if you haven't, you'll appoint captains, but as you're going through the practice now, are there guys that all of a sudden emerge as leaders?
Honestly, everyone's been taking it on themselves really to be leaders, and as leaders as a team more so than just individuals. But some of the guys that have tried to be a little bit more of that mouthpiece, you got AJ Ferris, Max Smythe. I've tried to insert myself a little bit with being a more vocal leader, but everyone on our team is really dedicated to our cause, and honestly, everyone keeps everyone in check. So on any given day, someone else could be stepping up and being verbal about something they like or don't like, and it's honestly hard to say who a captain will be at this point because everyone's done such a great job of stepping up in that way.
It seems so long ago when you last played. But, 2019, the fall of 2019 was just such a great time. Even though it's been so long, are you able to carry any of that momentum from that season over to now?
I think so. I think it's something that we never lost. It was hard when we heard the blow about not playing in the fall, but I think that for the most part, the team just kept it rolling. It's something that we knew that, we're rising and we want to be better and that we have the potential to be. So it was just a matter of everyone, keeping that momentum rolling on themselves, on their own right, when they're home. And different times in quarantine and stuff. So I think so. I think that it is a momentum that builds and it's something we want to keep rolling.
You had an outstanding season last year yourself personally, got a lot of recognition. You start this year as a 2021 spring preseason all Big South player. What does Justin Zuba feel like he needs to improve on over the next year or so?
Footwork is something that I think O-lineman can always be better at. I think specifically lead drives in the run game is something I want to work on a lot. And then my pass pro in general, I need to keep my hat out of things, really work on using my length. Those two being the biggest ones for me. And then also you can always be a better mental football player. So I'm getting more on tape, trying to see pressure indicators from the defense, more advanced stuff. So that way I can put myself in the best position to help the team.
Are there any offensive linemen at the NFL level that you either watch a lot, pay really attention to, or maybe the guys that ones that you want to follow?
I love Taylor Lewan. That's kind of like he's like my role model in a lot of ways. I really thought Tristan Wirfs was awesome this season. Jason Peters is a dog. Guys like that.
And I have to ask you. I mean, obviously, from a physical standpoint, you have pretty close to an NFL body. I mean, I don't know what program listings are. I think you're listed at 6'8", 300. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And I'm sure you could put on a couple more pounds if you wanted to. Is there a part of you that would like to give pro football a shot after Monmouth?
Oh, every part of me. Absolutely. That's the dream. I mean, I think that if you play football, I think it would be few and far between to find guys that aren't, pushing towards that dream because that's the show. That's what you want to work towards. And that's something that I've dreamt about since I was a little kid. So absolutely.
And that one game at a time approach, you're probably telling me the most important thing on the calendar right now is March 13th when you open up at Robert Morris, right?
Yes, sir. Absolutely. We're so ready for that game. It's a long bus ride out there. It's going to be a trip. It's exciting. I haven't played them. There's a long history in the school, and it's something that, like, when you're invested in a program, you want to take part in that history and be part of it. So that's going to be another chapter in that Robert Morris Monmouth rivalry.
As we get ready to wrap this up, I kind of kidded you before we started. I remember you at Brick Memorial. We did a number of your games on the Shore Sports Network, and you were kind of thin then. You were the big thin guy. You weren't as developed as you are now. But I joked about you. Let's be honest. I love Walt Curry at Brick Memorial, but throwing the football doesn't happen too often. You really were not much of a pass blocker. You weren't asked to do it much in high school. How big of an adjustment was that for you at Monmouth, where they like to throw the ball over the field?
Honestly, it was a ridiculous adjustment. That was something that was the learning curve. The run game, of course, there was a learning curve to it, and it's a different run scheme and everything, and that was really hard to pick up as well. But the pass, it was completely foreign to me. That was something that honestly, my first 2.5 years here, it was a nightmare. It was something that, like, every pass that was like gritting my teeth, knowing that it's difficult because it's something that it was so foreign to me. And I like to joke around. I never took a pass set in high school. Everything was always 3 steps to the run, and then you start backing up a little bit. It was never a kick step. So that was extremely difficult to get a hold of. And that's why it's a part, like, to this day of my game that I continue to have to work on, because it's still something that, I've only had my college experience with it. So I want to keep getting better at it. There was really no baseline beforehand.
I do have one more question for you, and I want to know if you can describe the feeling, when we're watching more often than not an NFL game, and one of those tackles has to go against one of those great pass rushers, and they get beat. Like, they get beat bad and the quarterback gets sacked. And I always wonder what's going through the offensive lineman's mind. Sometimes they come over to pick up the quarterback, kind of help him up. But I mean, what is on you? I mean, it doesn't happen probably too often to you anymore, but when it does, what's that feeling like when you get beat and that quarterback gets hit and it's your fault?
It's a gut punch. And that's something that instantly kills a play when a quarterback sack. It's over. And that's directly on you and it's on your head, especially, 95% of the time to tackle, it's a chess match. It's a one-on-one chess match with the DN. And when you lose that, I mean, there's no one else to blame but yourself. So it's difficult and it's hard, honestly, to brush it off and say, I got to focus on the next play. But honestly, that's what has to happen. The one that happened in 2019 was against Wagner on our final drive in the game. I did let up a sack, and it was probably one of the worst feelings I've ever felt in my life. But it's something that, we then continued to brush it off, let it go. And then it's like you focus on the next play and we drive down and win that game. So it's definitely a challenge, but it's something you have to be able to be resilient enough to say, okay, next play mentality.
Got to take it personal, though, don't you?
You definitely do.
Yeah. Well, fortunately, like you said, it hasn't happened too many times, and hopefully it won't happen at all as you continue to develop into one of the better offensive linemen at not only the Big South level, but anywhere in college football. Justin, congratulations on all you've achieved, especially the academic honors, which in college sports today sometimes get lost, but it's really notable to be a COSIDA All-American. I'm sure you take tremendous pride in that, and your family does as well. Wish you great success, great luck, great health. Look forward to seeing you out at Kessler at the end of March.
Thank you so much for having me.
Justin Zuba of Monmouth University, as we said, a preseason All Big South player and a former Brick Memorial standout as he gets ready for spring football on the turf at Monmouth University. You've been watching another edition of Kevin's Corner, brought to you by Jersey Mike's. Keep watching and keep checking shoresportsnetwork.com.